Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another week of Palmetto Playbook. I'm your host, Alan Marcus Harder, the 5 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. producer here at WNBF News in Myrtle Beach.
And I'm TJ Turner. I'm a digital content producer here at WNBF, and we'll get
Yeah,
started.
well,
Yeah,
we'll shake things up just to we'll deviate from the original plan. I will.
this would be both of our number ones.
We could be our number one. We'll give a quick shout out to our now Emmy award-winning director Sarah Pettigrew, as a part of the WNBF morning team that won a Southeast Emmy Award for the WNBF Snow Show. I believe that was in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we will shout out our very own Sarah Pettigrew, who's behind the screen, probably doesn't want to be on camera, but we'll give her the recognition for winning an Emmy.
Yeah, that'd definitely be number one for everybody. Definitely huge congratulations to Sarah as she's editing this right now,
Yeah.
looking at it, and then we'll get into our top three in the sports. With my number three is Wemby's game yesterday, as of recording, so Monday night in the conference finals. 41 points, 24 rebounds against the back-to-back MVP, against Chet Holmgren, who was second in Defensive Player of the Year, only to Wemby himself. Just a great performance. They knocked off a team who has been looking unstoppable for the past couple weeks.
Yeah, it was the Thunder's very first loss in the playoffs. The Thunder were coming back off of back-to-back sweeps over the Lakers, and can't remember who they faced. You remember who they faced last? Was it?
I can't even, it's so long ago because the series ended so fast.
The Lakers may have been, because didn't the Lakers make it to the second round?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I can't remember who they beat in the first round, but yeah, great team, a great performance. I think it was double overtime, which was crazy. Those straight up video game numbers. So it's hopefully if that's what the series has in store, we're in for a good one. For my number three spot, I'm going to just keep it generic since there was two different sports I could represent here. Myrtle Beach High School state champions. First, the boys team. Won that'd be 5A Division 1, I believe, or Division. The way the high school league does it, they split up 5A into two different brackets, and I can't remember which one is which. But the boys tennis team won the state championship, and I remember playing them in high school. This is how I guess big Myrtle Beach has grown in the past 10 years, or I guess that'd have been. I graduated in 2015, so that'd be 11 years. Myrtle Beach used to be in 3A, which, they were a powerhouse. They've always at least been a powerhouse since I can remember, but now they're competing in 5A and still winning a state championship. It was really good. And then in the track and field side of thing, they had J.J. Brown, who won two state championships in the long jump and the high jump. So some state championships for Myrtle Beach High School, who's they've historically been known as a really great athletic program over there.
Yeah, they just sent Adam Randall to the NFL.
Yeah.
He got drafted by the Ravens. And then my number two spot, I've got Aaron Rye winning the PGA championship in dominant fashion. He had a 68 or close to 70-foot putt that put him up 4 strokes going down the backstretch. It was a dominant performance the entire time. He was up for most of it by a couple strokes, and then in that final round on Sunday, he pulled away and ended up winning the PGA Championship. And we'll give a little local shout out from the One Flight Myrtle Beach Classic, where Aaron Rye was there. He was leading going into the final day in the Myrtle Beach Classic as well, and then he ended up finishing 5th here.
Yeah, it was just a crazy. No, I don't want to say turnaround because he did really well in the Myrtle Beach Classic, but just first time that we've had a winner, or not winner, but a performer in the Myrtle Beach Classic go straight to the very next week winning a PGA Major Championship. Yeah, great story for Aaron Rye. I believe it was his second PGA Tour win, which winning a major in your second win is definitely a great feat. I know. I didn't watch the PGA Championship as closely as I probably should have. But I know there were some storylines that there was one guy that missed the cut after getting assessed that 2-stroke penalty for missing.
Because he showed up 30 seconds late.
Yeah, 30 seconds late. I can't remember his name, but I know that I remember seeing that, and then the fact, I mean, he had a really good first round considering the 2-stroke penalty, but then ended up missing the cut by 1 stroke, which because of that. And then a personal favorite of mine was Justin Rose showing up. I guess that was round 1, showing up in a newly next year's Chelsea kit. I don't know if you saw the video of it, but it's like we haven't even like officially announced it or like released the kit or announced it yet. But he just shows up to the course rocking the concept that I guess that has been leaked online. So I guess it's going to be our official kit next year, just rocking up. If he's a Chelsea fan, he has my support. That's all it takes.
Yeah, and then Aaron Rai, another storyline there is he's the first English golfer to win the PGA Championship since 1919.
Yeah.
Over 100 years.
Yeah. It's just a crazy feat. For my number 2 spot, I'm going with the Texas Tech softball team. I don't know if you saw this clip. They were down 8-0 with 1 out left, and I guess that would have been the 7th inning. I don't know. There could have been a run rule in play, but they were down 8-0 with 1 out left in the game. They ended up coming back and winning the game in extra innings over Ole Miss 10-9, which was just crazy. Like you would imagine, like 99 out of 100 times, if you're down 8 runs with 1 out left to go in the game's pretty much over with. But the Red Raiders found a way to do it, and it was in a regional. I can't remember if it was like the first, like the winners bracket or anything like that. But a great performance from them. You're never truly out of it until the game's over with.
Yeah, definitely good to see from them. Just the resiliency it takes to even still be trying at that point in the game is enough to be celebrated, but them coming back and winning is great. And I've got a very personal pick for my number 1, Neymar being called up to the Brazilian national team for the World Cup. They had their final call-ups. There was final call-ups for quite a few countries.
I think most of them are coming up within the next week. I think the USA's is, I want to say next week, or it's there. Most of the countries are announcing them. You can expect those within the next week or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Neymar over the past 6 months, or basically since the last World Cup, and over the past year especially, they've been kind of leaving him off those lists. He's been battling injuries, and he is arguably the greatest soccer player or football player in the history of the Brazilian national team. I know him and Pele are going to be. I
was about to say,
yeah,
there's
I'm not giving him. I can't give him the crown.
A Ronaldo, a Pele. There's some names.
yeah. I think him and Pele are definitely 1 and 2, but he's the leading scorer in the national team's history, and just having him back, you could see there was the reactions from all over the country of Brazil, all the fans in America. Everybody wanted Neymar to be called up, and when his name was called, they ran through the streets like they had won the World Cup. You would have, if you were outside in Brazil at that time when they called his name, you would have thought that they won a World Cup or made a final or scored a goal in the World Cup. But no, it was just the fact that Neymar was called up to the national team.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for him. He's definitely a name that fans that want to see play. Definitely a good squad there with Carlo Ancelotti, former Real Madrid manager. Hopefully things work out well for Brazil. I know there was, as a Chelsea fan, a devastated, Grand Esteval. I mentioned him several weeks ago. One of the prodigies, 18, or I guess he's technically 19 years old because he just had a birthday. He missed out, and this wasn't due to performance or anything like that. He has that hamstring injury, which so unfortunate that he couldn't get called up. Which it makes sense when you can't perform because of an injury. It's unfortunate, but that's part of the sport. And then I mentioned before we started recording with João Pedro, a striker for Chelsea. I think he has 14 goals in the Premier League season. None of them from penalty. I wish he was on the team, but when you're a country like Brazil, you have a plethora of options to choose from. I feel like he could have made. I feel like there was a spot for him to be had on that team, but who am I to me as a random producer in Myrtle Beach to question Carlo Ancelotti's selection? And then I will mention Andre Santos as a midfielder option that I mentioned I'm not as surprised that he missed out as I am João Pedro because Santos's minutes has been kind of limited here at Chelsea with when you have Caicedo and Fernandez in the midfield. It's kind of hard to replace those to, I guess, get minutes when you have those two great options in the midfield. But, yeah, I mean, excited for the World Cup coming up, and hopefully Brazil can make some noise. And then for my number one spot, I'm going with a game I was actually at over the weekend on Sunday. My first WNBA is technically my third ever professional basketball game and my first ever WNBA game attending while I was in Atlanta for the weekend. I went to go see the Atlanta Dream play the Las Vegas Aces. Two really good teams in the WNBA and a lot of South Carolina Gamecock connections, which is kind of why I went. I was kind of as a neutral fan, just wearing my South Carolina gear. There was a lot of Gamecock fans in the building, a lot of Spurs up showing to like fellow Gamecock fans in the crowd. And it was a great game for honestly both teams and all the Gamecock players in that game. Just going through some stats. Asia Wilson had 20 points and 4 rebounds. And then, mind you, this is her first game after scoring 45 points. I guess that would have been Friday night against the Connecticut Sun. 20 points and 4 rebounds for the Aces. Alicia Gray, who's really becoming a star of the league over the past 2 or 3 years for the Atlanta Dream. She had 25 points, 9 rebounds. Tahina Pau, still love that name. 19 points. I believe that was a career high for her. And then one of the rookies, Medina Okot, she played at South Carolina, plays for the Dream. This was the Dream's third game of the regular season, so it was her career high of 14 points and 11 rebounds. Really great game all around. The Aces had almost a 20-point lead in the third quarter, but the Dream went on an unbelievable run in the fourth quarter to make it a close game. The Dream took the lead with 30 or so seconds left, and then I believe it was either Chelsea Gray or Joel Lloyd that hit the shot with 15 or so seconds left to put the Aces back up. But definitely an exciting finish. This was the Dream's home opener, and they don't normally play their games here, but it was one of 5 games that they played at the State Farm Arena where the Atlanta Hawks play at. So a lot more people in attendance. It was technically a sellout on paper. There was probably a few empty seats, but the environment was there. It even featured a halftime concert with Bow Wow. And
what?
Yeah, that was. I didn't know anything about this, and my brother Travis told me as we sat down, I was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's a halftime concert with Bow Wow," and then. What was the other? It was 2 guys. It was Dem Neighborhood Boys or something like that. I think I took a picture of it. Yeah, Dem Franchise Boys. Bow Wow and Dem Franchise Boys is the halftime performers. So great performance all the way. And I think both teams could go far this WNBA season.
Yeah, definitely good to see. And as the WNBA season is just getting underway, we are closing in on the NBA Finals in the NBA as the conference finals matchups are set after the Thunder. It's going to be the Thunder versus the Spurs, who have already started on Monday night as of recording on Tuesday. And then the second series, the Knicks versus the Cavs, is going to get underway on Tuesday night. And the Thunder after a sweep of the Lakers, as we mentioned, and the Spurs beating Minnesota 4-2 in 6 games in that series. It was a great series. I love watching those series between Anthony Edwards and Victor Wembanyama. It was definitely interesting to see during that series as well how well the Spurs did without Wembanyama, as he threw an errant elbow at Naz Reid during.
I don't know how errant. I don't know.
I'm not going to speak to his intent, but he did hit Naz Reid with his elbow, and he was ejected from the game. Also, a funny moment there is him and Harrison Barnes. As you guys know, Victor Wembanyama is not from America. His first language is not English. So they were explaining his flagrant foul. So they called it out as a flagrant 2, which means that it's an automatic ejection. And he pulled one of his teammates to the side, Harrison Barnes, who's a veteran in the league, and was like, what's that mean? Because they announced they were like flagrant foul. It's been upgraded to a flagrant foul 2, and the guy went over to the board and announced it to the crowd and everything, and you could just see Victor Wembanyama look over at his team. He's like, "What's that mean?" And then he goes, "I'm ejected," and then it was just a funny moment, just because it was was funny to see. Just so unclear on what was going on, and he had no idea that he was being kicked out of the game at that point. I mean, obviously the act that led to him being kicked out was definitely worthy of him being kicked out of the game, I think.
I kind of mentioned the reason I was joking there is probably kind of lashing out at frustration. There was definitely some fouls that probably should have been called on players against Wembanyama. He's kind of been has been fouled throughout the playoffs.
Yeah. On
the receiving end of fouls, and haven't really been called it both ways for the referees. So I understand the frustration, but if you're going to do something like that, got to make it a little less obvious, or better yet, just not do it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that's the Spurs versus Thunder series. I think is going to be the best series of the playoffs. I've loved all their matchups during the season. It seems like nobody in the NBA can defeat the Thunder this season except for the Spurs.
I was about to say. I think I remember seeing a stat that was like the Spurs. I don't know if they swept them in the regular season, but I think they had at least 3 wins over in the 4 games.
I think it was 4-1.
Oh, 4-1. Okay.
Or it might be 4-1 now after this game.
Okay.
But yeah, they've taken only 1 game off of the Spurs as the Oklahoma City Thunder, the 1 seed, dominant every single step of the way throughout the regular season, throughout the postseason. They're 8-0 in the postseason. I think they're like 71-14 against every other team in the NBA, and then against the Spurs, they're either 1-4 or 1-5 right now, which is definitely good to see. And it's a 4-game, it's a 1-4 series, seven potential games. And if there's any series in this postseason that I hope goes to 7 games, it's definitely this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say these are the 2 best teams left in the playoffs. So this definitely has like an NBA Finals feel, even though it is the conference finals. But hopefully some really great games ahead of, which I mean, like we just kind of joked before, if game 1 is the indicator, buckle up because we got a lot in store.
I don't know if we can handle any more 2 overtime games.
Well, yeah, as an NBC station, I'm sure our Nightside team weren't too thrilled about going on. I don't know what time they went up.
I think our 11 o'clock news got pushed back past midnight. And then the other series now that we've hyped up the first one so much, the Knicks versus the Cavaliers after the Knicks swept the 76ers and the Cavs beat the Pistons in 7. Kind of very opposite paths to this point by the Knicks and the Cavaliers, as the Knicks have had like almost a whole week off, whereas the Cavs just coming off. I mean, the last game was pretty dominant. It wasn't really a whole lot of stress in Game 7 for the Cavs as they were kind of beating up on the Pistons. They won by about 30 points in that final Game 7. But I think this series could get interesting too. I don't think it's going to be as electric as the other series, but I definitely think this one could go 5, 6, potentially 7 games.
Yeah, I know the Knicks are on a tear right now. I remember I saw a clip after the series over. The 76ers, some of the just joking, making fun of the 76 or Philadelphia in general. Josh Hart with the Knicks, I think he made a comment in one of the post-game pressers, was like, I thought Philadelphia is a sports town, but apparently not. Which, I mean, I like Josh Hart.
The Knicks are always, whether it's the fans, the players, they're always trying to make somebody mad.
Yeah, like I like Josh Hart, and like I said earlier with Justin Rose, if you like Chelsea, that you have my fandom. Josh Hart's a really big Chelsea fan, so I like to support him. But I am happy for the Knicks to get to this point. Like I mentioned last week, it's a franchise that have kind of been they've had a lot of lows throughout their franchise and not many highs. So I'm glad to see them get back into that level. And then on the other side, Cleveland has been playing really great ball as well. I keep forgetting that James Harden is on that team.
Yeah, it takes some getting used to.
Yeah, I keep forgetting he's there. And then it's good to see, or not good, but good for them that they beat the Pistons, who was the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, which the Pistons were kind of they've basically been flirting with elimination this entire postseason.
They've been trying to get themselves out of the playoffs.
They haven't done themselves any favor. They should have lost to the Magic, but the Magic decided they wanted to get out of the playoffs even more than the Pistons. So, but hopefully it's a great series. But it would be nice to see, at least in my opinion, to see the Knicks make it to the finals.
Yeah, and then moving on to the NHL playoffs, looking ahead to the Hurricanes' next series, as they've had plenty of time off after their sweep in this last round, and they finally have an opponent after after Montreal took the Buffalo Sabres to 7 games, and then that 7th game also went into overtime. So the Hurricanes were waiting an awful long time to figure out who their opponent was going to be in this next series. That series starts on Wednesday. Montreal, basically complete opposites for these teams once again, as the Hurricanes they've played 8 games, they've won 8 games, they've just gotten their way through, whereas Montreal's been fighting and clawing their way to this point.
Yeah, I think Montreal's coming off back-to-back Game 7s, so they've definitely got a lot of games under their legs right now into the postseason. You have to imagine they're a little fatigued, but this is the postseason where I don't think that really matters. When you have a chance to make it to a Stanley Cup, I don't think fatigue is going to stop you. But yeah, like you kind of mentioned, the Hurricanes, they wrapped up their own series. They wrapped up their series with the Flyers when when the Sabres and Canadians were like getting ready for Game 3. So it went to a 7-game series. So yeah, the Hurricanes have had a lot of time, hopefully, to rest and mentally prepare and physically prepare for the battle that's coming ahead. Because granted, as they've gone 8-0 in the postseason so far, but nothing is easy at this point. You got to show up each and every game, or you're going to lose. But I like the Hurricanes' chances. They've shown so far that they're up for the challenge, and hopefully that continues against the Canadians, which I think that series starts on Thursday, the 21st, which would be Thursday. So that's coming up later this week.
Yeah, that'll be good to see. And the baseball season is underway, and the Braves now with the second best record in baseball, falling just below Tampa Bay. They've played 2 more games, so there's definitely a chance for them to maintain that top spot in terms of record after this series they've got underway with the Marlins after they played the first game on Monday night. But they're definitely looking. They've been looking great all season. As I just said, they're second best record of baseball. They've had the best record in baseball for the past few weeks, and that team just looks like they're rearing up for a run this year. I know it's still early on in the season, but they've already exceeded, I think, everybody's expectations. I know Alan Marcus has mentioned it week in and week out, how we didn't expect much of anything coming into this season, and they've just kind of blown those expectations completely out of the water.
Yeah, another great week for the Braves, coming off of a series win over the Cubs, which I think they have the 4th best record, or tied for the 4th best record in baseball right now. Great for them. I was there for Friday night's game and Saturday night's game against the Red Sox. I feel like I probably brought them some bad luck. The Friday night game, they ended up winning, I guess that would have been the 10th inning, a walk-off double or single from Mike Yumich. The catcher, who has ties. His family has ties. He's the grandson of Boston's legend, Carl. I can't pronounce his last name. I looked it up before recording to make sure I pronounced it right, and now I'm blanking on it. But I think my brother told me, I think they even have a foul pole at Fenway Park named after his granddad, and now the grandson hits a walk-off against the team. And then Saturday night's game, I take the blame for that loss for the Braves. It was the 8th inning, and Bryce Elder, who was the starting pitcher, was still in the game. And I told my brother, he's doing really well. Hopefully, he gets out of this inning. And lo and behold, he gives up a 2-run home run for the Red Sox to take the lead. So I guess I'm cursed. Even if I make a prediction or not, I just say something nice and something bad happens. So that's just my life as a sports fandom. If you want to know why I'm always upset with sports, this is why.
Yeah, and then moving over to Myrtle Beach, the Pelicans are going on the road to face the Kannapolis Cannonballers for their second series of the season against them. They won that first series 4-2 against the Cannonballers, but they're coming off of a tough series with the Augusta Green Jackets. Yes.
I was like, I like that name.
Yeah, the Green Jacket. I wanted to say Yellow Jackets just because I'm just used to it, but the Augustus Green Jackets, as they lost that series 4-2.
Yeah, hopefully the Pelicans can bounce back. I know they've had some good seasons in the past, which, granted, I wouldn't say most of the success can't really translate from year to year because a lot of these good guys will move up further in the MLB system. But hopefully the Pelicans can bounce back. It's always fun in the grandstand when they're playing well.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see, and they've, as we always say, they're doing so many fun things around that ballpark. It's definitely good to get out there and watch a game. And then moving over to Coastal, who had a very surprising end to the season as they lost to Louisiana and ended up actually losing the top spot in the Sun Belt standings to Southern Miss.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunate with how the season is coming to a close for Coastal. They had the lead in the Sun Belt for the entire conference season. They were in contention for a number 8 national host until like 2 weeks ago. This is after winning like 17 straight Sun Belt conference series dating back to like March of last year. Now they're on back-to-back series losses. It seems like the hitting needs to find their rhythm again, and the pitching as well, which, I mean, I will say, granted, on Saturday's game, it was a really great outing from Cam Flukie and Darren Horn. Cam Flukie, I think, went 4 innings, and then Darren Horn, the reliever, went 5 innings himself. I believe it was a shutout win for the Chants, so it's good. They definitely still have some bright spots, and like you mentioned, Southern Miss ended up winning the Sun Belt regular season championship. And I will give them, a shout out to them. They're finishing the season hot. Coastal started conference play hot, going on a decent amount of a win streak. But right now, the Southern Miss Golden Eagles I think they're like 14-1 in their last 15 conference games. So they definitely put the pressure on Coastal, and ultimately Coastal couldn't get the job done to finish the regular season. But the good thing about this situation is the season's far from over. I mean, granted, winning the regular season championship would have been probably one of the goals of the season, but there's still a whole lot to play for. They have the conference tournament, postseason tournament to play for, and then the actual NCAA regional or NCAA tournament. Coastal will play in both of those. I'm sure of that. I'm sure at this point I don't see a way for Coastal to be one of those top 16 hosts for the NCAA tournament. But I mean, they'll definitely be a dangerous number 2 team if they can get things going. And I believe that it's in Montgomery for the conference tournament, the Sun Belt Conference tournament, which Coastal will play on Wednesday, I believe. I'm not exactly sure against who they may even go up against Louisiana again, but hopefully they can get the hitting and pitching going again in the conference tournament, and then make a run in the postseason. Which, like, even if you look back at the 2016 season when they ended up winning the national championship, they didn't even host their regional. They were on the road at NC State, and then had to go to LSU for the Super Regionals. There's still a lot of time for this team to turn things around. I mean, and Kevin Chenal has done a great job coaching this team so far this season. Huge testament to him, because just the amount of injuries that this team has faced throughout the season, to even be at this point, to be 30-plus wins and a number 2 team in the Sun Belt. If you probably would have said that at the beginning of the season, or after, I guess, the first weekend of the season, when we found out all these good guys were hurt, I'm sure Coastal fans would have been excited with the proposition, which, I mean, it's still unfortunate they've faltered the past couple of weeks, but, I mean, there's still time to turn things around.
Yeah, and as the conference tournaments are getting underway, the postseason awards have come out for the Sun Belt, and Darren Horn, as you just talked about, closing that game against Louisiana, earned first-team All-Sun Belt honors, with Rex Watson getting second-team All-Sun Belt honors, and then Case Bosch and Jackson Smollett both earned All-Sun Belt All-Freshman team.
Yeah, great. I think huge deserving of the awards. I think there could have been some also, while we're talking about postseason awards for Coastal, I think you could also mention in that same conversation some snubs some players that probably should have earned postseason honors for the Sun Belt. Thinking like names like Dean Mijos, who was a great performer at the top of the lineup, Walker Mitchell and Blake Barthol. I think those are three guys that should have been named in the first or second team All Sun Belt, given their success this season. But I am happy for the guys that have been named, like you mentioned, Darren Horn, Rex Watson, Case Bosch, and Jackson Smollett. Exciting for them, and there's still a lot like a foundation to build for future seasons to come.
Yeah, then moving over to Clemson, as they finished out the year with a loss in a series versus Virginia Tech. They're going to play Notre Dame tonight on Tuesday night, so you guys will already know the outcome of this season in the ACC tournament, just to try and keep their season alive and keep their hopes. Because at this point, Clemson's going to have to win the ACC tournament to have a shot at getting into the NCAA tournament, if that. They're definitely going to need to. I don't think they get in without winning the tournament.
Yeah, they need a miracle run up there, wherever. I can't remember exactly where this tournament's being played at. But, yeah, like you mentioned, I think Clemson needs a miracle run to get into the tournament, which is crazy to think about at the beginning of the season, the tournament. Which even with that in mind, like I looked at the ACC bracket before recording this, and I was shocked to see like names like Duke as the 16 seed. Like Clemson's the 15 seed in the tournament, and Duke's the 16 seed. Duke's another really good team that's been really well the past several years. And then I believe Louisville is like the 11th seed, and they made it to the College World Series last year. So they're facing the potential of not even making the tournament, just like teams like LSU out of the SEC. There's quite a few teams. I can't remember the teams. I was listening to it. I'll shout out them, the Strut podcast, a group of Coastal diehard fans, and I was listening to them break down postseason play for Coastal. I can't remember the other teams they mentioned, just the turnaround from last season. But yeah, disappointing end to Clemson right now. But yeah, they're gonna need a lot of help to get into for a chance to get in.
Yeah, speaking of needing a lot of help, the South Carolina baseball season has come to a close after a 12-game losing streak to finish out the year. They've just finished up getting swept by Vanderbilt, which I don't think that series was very unexpected. I think people going into this year, even before the year had started, seeing how much they've struggled, I think people would have probably chalked this one up as a sweep. But going into this offseason, we've talked about it. So many questions that need answered. There's a bunch of spots that need to be filled in the clubhouse in South Carolina. I don't know, culture change, coach change. Something needs to happen.
It's definitely going to be a coaching change. It's unfortunate for Monty Lee. It seems like this team doesn't have a lot of fight left in this season, which I feel like that's going back several weeks ago. I think the fight in this team, they've kind of I don't want to say gave up, because that sounds harsh, but it seems like there hasn't been like positive energy in that program for several weeks now, and it's unfortunate for Monty Lee, because I think he's had a decent coaching career, but he's definitely, I guess, I don't want to put all the blame on him, but he's not doing himself any favors if he was in the conversation for being a permanent head coach. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I would assume they're going to be looking. They'll be looking for a new permanent head coach after this season, and who knows how that search will play out. I know Kevin Schnall is a name that's been floated around quite a lot in that opening position. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I hope for Coastal's sake that he stays in Conway, but I don't know how that's going to play out. I think other names that have been floated around, I can't remember their exact names, but like the head coach for Georgia Tech, who's like a top 5 team in this season, and then the head coach for Kansas, I can't remember his name. I feel like those could be other coaches to watch for that South Carolina that job opening, but there's definitely a lot of questions. Which there have been a lot of questions that needed answering in that program for quite a while now, and it seems like it's coming to a head right now. Hopefully they can get that hire right. They've been a dominant program in the past, but they're far from that right now. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and then switching over to softball, Clemson's season came to a close as a 5-0 loss to Georgia. Finishes off the year for Clemson, Clemson had a great season. I think Clemson softball is definitely in a great spot. They're definitely on an upward trajectory in that program, as they've basically been in an upward trajectory ever since the program started, and they're definitely showing that year in and year out with the records they're able to put up in a tough conference.
Yeah, it was I guess unfortunate ending. I mean, this would have been a tough regional to come out of with Georgia being I think Clemson being the 2 seed and Georgia as the number 10 team right there. Unfortunate for Clemson. I know they didn't start off strong. They lost that first game. I believe it was against UNC Greensboro. I think it was either. Yeah, it was one of the UNC like smaller schools. I think it was UNC Greensboro. It was their first win ever in the softball tournament. But Clemson bounced back, won the elimination game. I think they made it to the regional final against Georgia, but ended up losing to get eliminated. But I guess a disappointing season. Disappointing season by Clemson standards. If you're there's a lot of programs that wished they were, I guess, in Clemson's shoes right now, but by their own standards, they've been a dominant force, like you mentioned, since starting as a program. That this probably felt like a down year for them, but I'm sure there's still a lot of a lot of success I would anticipate from Clemson moving forward. I would assume this is just a down year, and you probably won't be in. They'll probably be better for it next year.
Yeah, and then South Carolina's season came to a close at the hands of UCLA once again for the second year in a row. This year ending with a 15-1 game.
Yeah, South Carolina, they started out strong. They had to come back and beat. I think that was I want to say it was Fullerton. They had to come back and win the first game. UCLA almost lost their first game. I can't remember who it was. They were playing another team. It may have been UC Santa Barbara or something like that. But UCLA, a dominant force. Once they got the bats rolling, they couldn't get stopped. I was watching, I think that first game against UCLA in my hotel room. It was a 0-0 game. In the fourth inning, and South Carolina made an error that allowed UCLA to get a runner on first base, and the very next hitter hit a home run. You can't make mistakes against this UCLA team and expect to win. They're a dominant force. They have a lot of home run hitters. I think they lead the league in home runs. Either them or I think of Oklahoma or Texas or something like that. I know there was one girl from UCLA that has 30 plus home runs this season, which is just crazy. They're definitely going to be a team to beat moving forward. But like you mentioned, a second straight season losing to UCLA. UCLA's had our number in a variety of sports. It's the same team the women's basketball lost to in the national championships. So hopefully we can get over that hump against UCLA, which, I guess it is poetic justice, because the South Carolina's baseball, when they won their national championship in 2010, they beat UCLA. So maybe this is their payback 16 or 17 years later. I don't know. But, but I will say it is still great for the program. Before Ashley Chastain Woodard was hired, South Carolina would go several years before making a postseason appearance. And this her second year, I think, at the helm and back-to-back postseason appearances. It's a great starting point. Hopefully, the success is far from finished, and hopefully there's still a lot of bright spots left for this program moving forward.
Yeah, and then the Division I teams in South Carolina are done for the year, but Francis Marion is continuing into the regionals, correct?
Super regionals.
Super regionals. They've finished the regionals. They're into the super regionals in both baseball and softball.
Yeah, I told TJ before recording to remind me to mention this if I forgot, and of course I forgot it. But yeah, both the baseball and softball teams advancing to the super regionals. I don't exactly know who they're playing, but definitely, when we joked last week, playoffs in Florence is a good spot this season.
It's a good place to be.
So hopefully that success continues in the super regionals. And then switching gears again, we have it was the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. This this not a Monday night this week, and then headline probably the name you probably most recognize, Steve Spurrier, a Gamecock legend, most wins as the head coach for the Gamecock football program. The helm through their 3 straight 11 win seasons in 2010, 2011, and 2012. Great for him to get the recognition. Brian asked me before we started recording what took him so long to get this recognition. I don't know what the eligibility requirements are for this to get this, but I will shout out the other names, the full list of inductees for 2026. You had Brian Barnes, who was a Clemson baseball pitcher, has a lot of records up there. Tim Barrett, a Clemson sports information director. And then our own Amber Campbell Moore with Coastal Carolina women's track and field. She was a 5-time NCAA All-American in hammer and weight throw, and a 16-time Big South champion in just 4 years here in Conway. So yeah, winning a Big South championship, I guess that would have been in 4 different fields, all in her 4 years. Jim Davis, Clemson women's basketball coach. Our Monty Edwards, a player that App State fans in Sarah would know very well. First D1 player with 10,000 plus passing yards and 4,000 rushing yards. Led the Mountaineers to 2 FCS national titles. And then probably the infamous put App State on the map. He was the quarterback when App State beat number 5 Michigan. I think that was in 2007. And then rounding out the list, we have Dwayne Harper, who was with SC State football. Bob Jenkins, high school, a leading figure in high school cross country here in South Carolina. Andrew Provence, representing South Carolina Gamecocks football. Saudia Roundtree with Georgia women's basketball, and then, like I mentioned earlier, Steve Spurrier.
Yeah, and definitely good to see those people get their recognition, especially, Steve Spurrier is such a legend in the South Carolina football program. You can't even think about South Carolina football without mentioning Coach Spurrier.
Yeah, it's great to see that recognition. I will quickly, hopefully this will be quick. Before we wrap up, we'll do a high school shout out. There's some area teams that have chances to make it to a state championship in a variety of sports. Looking Atlantic Collegiate, their girls soccer team is in the semifinals. West Florence baseball team is in the lower state finals. The Hartsville baseball, Atlantic Collegiate, and then Latta and Hannah Pamplico. Baseball teams are all in the lower state finals. And then on the softball side, you have St. James and West Florence still alive in the lower state finals. So, which I guess one of those teams will be guaranteed to play for a state championship. South Florence in the softball in the lower state final. Loris, Dillon or Ainer, I can't remember exactly who won Monday night's game to advance on, but 2 teams in the 3A softball team championship still left. And then Andrews softball is still alive in the lower state finals. And then Hannah Pamplico, Green Sea Floyds, and Latta softball all still in the softball for I believe that would have been 1A. So good to see that. I think Atlantic Collegiate, their softball team is also still alive in softball. But quickly shout out for that. And then before we wrap up, I told DJ I would do this. I will mention our WNBF sports director, this Tegan Brown. This is her last week here at WNBF, but I will shout her out. She was an original member of the Palmetto Playbook way back when. Basically started this podcast nearly 2 years ago. I had to look back. It was like July of 2023. But yeah, like one of the original faces of the podcast leaving, and I'll just quickly shout her out for her time here covering just high school sports, coastal athletics. Her 3 years here at at WNBF. Wish her all the best, but I guess until then, like, comment, subscribe, comment on our YouTube video if you want to see us, any segment ideas, any things you want in your top 3 or anything like that. We'll take all the feedback you had for us, and until then, we'll see you here next week.